Women refuse to do more for organizations who have hired them. Yet, they demand those organizations do more for them. Just like in a relationship with men. Part of the problem is that modern women feel entitled to the highest positions in most companies, and although many are smart enough to do it, they just don't have any work ethic and refuse to sacrifice their time and comfort in order to advance the company's objectives and profits. Even when they're trained for leadership positions, they tend to get emotional, start fighting, and creating bottlenecks, and leave work early without fulfilling their responsibilities. They are never willing to stay longer and work overtime. They will delegate problems and harder tasks to male subordinates, who then have to do not only their own jobs, but also those of their female managers on top, without being paid extra, just so that the work doesn't stop and that every project is finished as planned. I recently talked about this with a friend of mine who works at a global organization that literally has offices in every continent and in most countries around the world. And he agrees. Each department now has a quota that the large organization I'm talking about has to fill up with women. The organization has to make sure that at least 25% of the overall global management has to be comprised of females by the end of 2024. And if the organization isn't successful in doing that, it will not be able to secure a place in the Gender Diversity Index. It will also be labeled as an organization that is women-friendly and hence will not be included in the so-called Best Place to Work awards that take place every year. Go on LinkedIn and see for yourself. You will see a bunch of organizations with their posts celebrating their diversity and how they won the Best Place to Work awards. Do you think they really are the best places to work? Think again. Most of them are there only because they added more females to the top leadership positions. I've talked about this previously in my videos as well, and I mentioned the likes of Facebook and Amazon laying off employees. Part of the reason they had to do that was because they overemployed people during the pandemic. Now when the pandemic is over, they realize they might not need that many people. People I know who have worked in many such organizations tell me the same thing, that companies are secretly tired of this whole quota rule. The fact that they have to employ women just because they are women is damaging their operational efficiencies. You see, women may be capable, but the truth is they never want to sacrifice and put in the hard work. That's another factor and why the wage gap is a myth. Men are willing to do the jobs that women absolutely won't do, like trades, construction, sewer work, and working on an oil rig. They take comfortable jobs that allow them to socialize with other people instead of harder, more dangerous, high-paying jobs, and they don't work extra hours. That's the difference. Women aren't merely becoming a burden now. It's always been that way, you see. Women's fragility, problematic neuroticism, and narcissism, and less productive natures have always been a burden for companies since all of this started in the late 1960s and 1970s. Women were already a much greater liability with a generally lower return on investment than men, buoyed mainly by feminist social and government pressure. Then the Me Too movement started and changed the dynamics of the workplace. With a declining economy, women's less productive and more neurotic, narcissistic, and company culture troublemaking nature surfaced, indicating to companies that they might be a bad investment. Women are becoming a survival liability for companies. More woke government agencies are now trying to legally coerce companies to hire women and force them onto boards of directors. And the woke leadership will likely damage the lives and careers of many employees through no fault of their own and cripple to destroy many of these companies. To the men, get extremely aware of what you're dealing with and mitigate and avoid appropriately. To the companies, you know what you can do, and I'm not here to give you a toolkit on how to do that. Equal rights come with equal responsibilities, but not for women. Women are the darlings of society who can get all the benefits of equality, but barely any responsibility. What they don't tell people about the Me Too movement is that it only applies to women. Men who are harassed or assaulted by a female coworker are essentially ignored until irrefutable evidence is provided proving otherwise. Even then, the female is usually counseled and rarely dismissed. there aren't any other derogatory impacts. They are free to make counter-accusations, and that puts the men on the defensive and impacts their careers and future no matter the outcome. Even if proven the female was the aggressor, if a counter-allegation is made, he's still finished in that business. Now, fewer women are being hired by large companies because they know that apart from the quotas that they have to fill to keep the shareholders happy, they don't have much to gain from hiring women. But did women bring this on to themselves? Is this a failure of feminism? Let's see. A gender quota does more harm than good. It's all about the feminist agenda. Quota is more important than reality in the eyes of the law. The law is sometimes contrary to common sense. I'd rather employ qualified men than not so qualified women out of legal obligation. The bottom line is, reality is more important than quota. The law is contrary to common sense. Men know what it's like to feel like they're a constant threat to women. At any moment, if you even look at a woman wrong, she'll label you a creep. Men are proud. Men will not tolerate this kind of slander and disrespect. This is one of the reasons men are staying away from women at work. The point is, men have a lot more to lose than women in the workplace. A man will lose his whole identity, his means of earnings, and his value in society if a woman falsely accuses him and gets him fired. But a woman doesn't have that much to lose. In fact, a woman will instead sue the organization if it fires her, and she will probably end up earning millions in a legal battle that will show her as the victim. So, it's a no-brainer that women are now facing tougher times in the workplace. They now have to deal with a lot of skeptical men who are already sort of afraid of dealing with these women in fear of being accused of something they didn't do. On top of that, women have to work twice as hard as before because they now have an idea that organizations are monitoring them to see if they're actually worth the promotion or the leadership positions they were given because of gender quotas. Employers can keep damaging their operations and profitability because of women for only a certain time. If women don't live up to the required standards, it's only a matter of time before they start lobbying against this whole concept of pushing females to senior positions without merit. You see, organizations are run to generate profit for shareholders and cannot afford to lose their profitability. When they start to lose their profitability, none of this gender quota business is going to work for them. If and when the shareholders don't get their profit, they're going to lobby against organizations being made to instate women at higher management positions. What's shocking is that women managers are also increasingly reluctant to hire women. They find younger women to be less productive and more likely to waste time socializing, causing unnecessary and counterproductive drama in the workplace. Also, around the age of 30, younger women realize that their reproductive window is closing and leave to start families, taking their training and experience with them just when they are becoming productive. Companies should have stopped hiring women in prominent roles and other roles years ago. These positions are made for men because men are forward-thinking by nature and aggressive in getting things done for the betterment of the business. The truth is that men treat work as a place to escape their personal life. From my experience, women like to mix the personal with the professional, and they see nothing wrong with it. It seems fine, up to the point those feelings are hurt, and suddenly what should be professional feedback becomes a visit to HR for any man involved. And eventually, a loss of his working career, self-esteem, and source of income. Thanks for watching Man Reacts. Show us your love and support by liking this video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to the channel. And let us know your thoughts on this in the comments. We're always up for a healthy debate and discussion.